guys, welcome to today's episode of Sunday Sofa Politics. Today we're going to be talking about David Cameron's renegotiation strategy. David Cameron sent a letter to the European Council President Donald Tusk setting out the reforms that he wants in the relationship between the UK and the European Union. We're going to begin by talking about the first reform, which is economic governance in the EU.
David Cameron wants the European Union to recognise that the euro is not the only currency in the European Union. He wants to ensure that countries outside the eurozone are not materially disadvantaged and they are not discriminated against. He also wants to make sure that non-eurozone countries do not have to participate in the bailout of eurozone countries, such as Greece.
Another key objective in his letter to Donald Tusk was immigration. He wants to restrict EU migrants' access to in-work and out-of-work benefits. What he and other ministers want is that when the EU migrants come to the UK, they must remain for 4 years before they can start claiming the in-work and out-of-work benefits, such as tax credits.
Top civil servants have advised Conservative ministers that this law may discriminate against EU workers and saying that it will most likely be reduced to a year before they can receive these benefits. David Cameron wants to reform the competitiveness of the market. He wants to extend the single market and cut down on regulations on businesses. David Cameron wants the EU to take a less interventionist role to allow businesses to thrive and trade freely.
David Cameron wants the UK to regain its sovereignty from the EU, which will also allow it to opt out whenever it wants. If UK legislation contradicts with EU laws, the European Court of Justice can overturn them. The European Court of Justice can also overrule any decision made by the most powerful court in the whole of the UK, which is the Supreme Court. This is why Cameron wants to renegotiate terms with the European Union in order for the UK to get its sovereignty back.
The idea of a European army has been totally rejected by David Cameron. He believes that the British police force should be totally free from European intervention.
Check it out.
Conservative MPs believe that David Cameron has not gone far enough with the negotiation. They believe that he has been tinkering around the edges and has not gone far enough into the controls over agriculture, the controls over fishery, the control over regional aid and state aid. They believe that after the renegotiations that the UK would still be controlled by other members of the EU.
As most of you probably know, in 2017 there will be an in-out referendum for the UK and the European Union. Recent polls show that more Britons are in favour of remaining in the EU rather than leaving it, even though it is only by a small majority. Will Straw, the director of Britain Stronger in Europe, has said that the Prime Minister has set out a series of sensible and sound reforms for Britain to improve its relationships with Europe. It is now clear that Leave campaigners are losing the argument.
David Cameron knows that it will be really hard to get these reforms pushed through without the backing of other EU leaders, but he's willing to try anyway. So guys, that's it. Let us know if you think we're better in or out, whether you think his reforms will get pushed through or whether you think they're going to be pushed to the side. Guys, comment it below. Tell us what you think. Santa, tell me.
Alright, let's go.
Shake it off. Oh my gosh.